The people who have been critical of Disney's business model over the past several years didn't exactly need any more ammunition when it comes to Disney's bookkeeping, especially the reported budgets that end up ballooning into way more than they estimated to begin with. But the most recent news for Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness puts even the biggest doubters or the biggest Disney defenders on their heels, because there's no way that you can possibly defend this. For years and years, Disney's been spending an insane amount of money on products that, quite frankly, people despise. And Multiverse of Madness was certainly one of those things. But considering it did $950 million at the box office on a reported $200 million budget, a lot of people said, wow, that's a success. Unfortunately, just like with so many things, Disney was lying to everyone. When they actually had to file the paperwork, it turns out that Multiverse of Madness cost well over $400 million just to make. That's not including the marketing. That's not including all of these other things. And at the end of the day, it also lost money for Disney at the box office. And this has been a common theme over the past several years, especially as the product has diminished. People have been calling out the insane budgets that they have for Marvel movies, for Star Wars shows, and for pretty much everything in between. We've talked about it for years. Critics have talked about it, and we were told to shut the fuck up by the mainstream media. When you're spending $225 million on She-Hulk trash, when they lied to us about the Ant-Man Quantumanium budget, that was actually around $350 million, not $200 million. And of course, Secret Invasion, one of the biggest flops we saw, again cost over $200 million. Things like the Willow series cost almost $20 million per episode as well. Well, finally, Bob Iger is addressing some of these things. And of course, instead of admitting, just straight up admitting that, the agenda that we push at Disney, that also has a large part to play in why we've been so horrifically bad over the past couple of years, why the box office, why streaming's been so bad, why we've lost billions of dollars. Bob Iger's now addressing one of the combination of factors that has made Disney fail over recent years, and that's the budget. Bob Iger reflects on Disney's streaming launch. We invested too much. Yeah, no shit, Bob. Now, with that being said, if you did give people a good product, if they actually wanted, if they were actually interested and not pushed away by the constant preaching of identity politics, then maybe the amount of money you spent, you might be able to get a return on that. However, with some of these budgets, it's just outlandish. But Bob Iger is now saying what we have been saying for 3 to 4 years now, that the amount of money that they were spending on this shit is not sustainable. The studio boss talked about his turnaround strategy to boost audience engagement and manage traditional TV and digital assets seamlessly. And of course, in typical Bob Iger fashion, despite the fact that he was still there at Disney for the vast majority of the time that Bob Chapek took over as CEO, he's pushing all of the responsibility onto Bob Chapek. Disney CEO Bob Iger gave a mea culpa for big losses incurred while launching streaming platforms like Disney Plus during an investor conference appearance on Wednesday. Quote, "As we got into the streaming business in a very, very aggressive way, we tried to tell too many stories. Basically, we invested too much, way ahead of possible returns. It's what led to streaming ending up as a $4 billion loss." Now, if we actually go up and add up all of these things when it comes to Disney Plus, since they launched Disney Plus, the losses have actually been well over $4 billion. It's closer to $10 billion. But again, it's that funny Disney accounting, isn't it? Iger addressed a falling out with his hand-picked successor, former Disney CEO Bob Chapek, whose tenure he called out for lavish and misplaced content spending. Again, Disney Plus was Bob Iger's baby. He's the one that set a lot of these things up. He was there when Bob Chapek was CEO. He was still on the board. He was still overseeing everything. He was still in the building. Yet all of these decisions that Bob Chapek made end up being placed squarely on him. It was clear to me that our structure was not working. Because we were removing accountability from those that were basically investing the most capital was a mistake, he argued. And he would go on to say, we're really focused on not spending as much money, focusing on quality over quantity. That's great. People have been telling you this for the last several years. It's great that you're 3 years behind the 8 ball on all of this, where we've been calling it out. However, it really is a deflection, right? It's doing damage control and saying, this is we just spend too much money. We're just really irresponsible. The most irresponsible thing that Disney has done over the past several years is not just spending, $400 million on Doctor Strange 2 or $350 million on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania or $250 million plus for something like Little Mermaid. The reality is the biggest, most insane thing they've done is take a company that was known for family-friendly content and inject woke identity politics at each and every turn. The biggest mistake they've made, the worst thing they've done, is drive away nearly half the country. People don't trust Disney anymore. They view them as an inherently political company. And until they prove differently, that's not going to change. So I'm sure by trying to cut $24 billion or whatever they said they wanted to cut spending by in 2024, that is a good thing. It's something they should have done a long time ago. Unfortunately, that's just one of the problems at Disney, where the biggest one, in a lot of people's opinion, is what they continue to push, especially to children, time after time. And until that changes, despite how many shows they might cancel or movies they might cut or whatever, but if they are actually good on their word and do those things going forward, the biggest problem still remains. The way that Disney is viewed by the public, they are not trusted by families, they're not trusted by the main group of people who used to be their consumers. And I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon. What do you think about Bob Iger trying to do this deflection? Blame Bob Chapek, blame everything else other than the dog shit content, the ideologically infested content that they have been pushing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.